Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com. Let's talk today a little bit more about that patient that comes into your office, whether they're 7, 8, 9, and you're like, this looks like a phase 1 case, and they want removables, they want Invisalign First, but it looks like I probably need to do an expander or an IPE on top. I mean, some of the things we're looking at, do we need an expander, do we not? I always say take a sleep disorder breathing screening. Of course, that is subjective, not objective. Mom or dad's doing it at home a few days before they come in. There's a lot of parents who do not put the effort out. They just think this is BS. They're gonna kind of whip it out. I probably could have been one of those parents. If someone had given that to me, when my kids were little, maybe I wouldn't have paid attention either. So a lot of people just, in their head, they're like, I need to go to ortho to get braces, to get Invisalign, to straighten my teeth. They're not, the parents will never believe you that there's an airway issue potentially, and they may not even care that, you're doing it the right way versus the not right way. In their mind, a lot of people think this is BS, is what we get down to. So, and they think, or maybe it's an upgrade sell, or you're trying to sell something extra, and you're probably not going to convince them otherwise. But doing this screening at least is a CYA thing for you. Cover your, because if and when this ever blew up down the road, maybe you did some mechanics that maybe you didn't do that expander. Maybe you only did the Invisalign, and then it still was a vaulted palate, and patient had all kinds of ENT and myo issues and face grew funny later. And they're like, how come an expander was never done? And they pull the records, and there's an audit, the dental board, the insurance. I mean, this stuff does happen. So that's why I'm letting you know, just because the parents say it's okay and just because they sign something doesn't necessarily mean it's okay. You need to show that you've at least put the effort out to do the research. Then you can present the options to the parents. And to be honest, if there was a parent that it was so airway face, like just blatant airway face. And if you don't know what airway face is, go to my YouTube channel, put in the keyword airway face. If it was just so blatant, I mean, Ceph numbers were off the charts, long face, growing down and back instead of forward, airways tiny. We take a CBCT, we do an airway analysis with beam readers. We do the SDB form, and it's blowing up. There's all kind of red flags on the SDB form. I do the OMT in-house screening. These are all forms that you should be doing if you're gonna see kids. Well, if you're gonna see anyone, you should know how to do all this stuff. And all this is covered in my phase 1 course. You should definitely check it out. Anyways, so quick sidebar. So, you're checking the Ceph, you're checking the facial growth, you're checking which direction the face is growing. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I can see an airway face at Disney World across the, when my kids and I went to Disney World, we were pointing out the airway faces. We were like, mouth breather, yep, long face, ooh, venous pooling. Oh, so much venous pooling at Disney World. Anyways, I went on a sidetrack here, but you get the idea. Sometimes you need to, you have to take all the data. So what is the data I might check? Obviously, a Ceph would be helpful, just looking at the face, SDB form, OMT screening, looking for a vaulted palate. I know if a palate is super vaulted, there's no way the tongue is fitting up there. There's no way, because there's no place for it to fit. It's too narrow. So I know this patient has airway issues if there's a vaulted palate. So that's a no-brainer for me. If I see a majorly vaulted palate, I mean, there's some palates that are borderline. And then, you do the OMT screening and see if the tongue can sit up there. See if they can hold it on the spot, Look at the occlusion. Ultimately, if you know it's the right thing to do an expander and the parents are refusing, you have a choice. You can not take that case. You can let that be someone else's liability. You kind of know in your gut that something's going to go not optimal if you do this down the road. And the question is, how well will you sleep at night knowing this is not the right thing to do? Now, if it's a very borderline thing and I don't see stuff on the SDB screening, maybe they're lying, maybe they're not. I'm not seeing a lot on the OMT. It looks like they can keep their tongue at the spot. They're showing they can do nasal breathing. I don't see any signs of tongue thrust or mouth breathing in the office. I could say, I see a little bit of a vaulted palate. Here's my concerns. We can go one of two ways with this. You never ever want to charge more though. Don't make this an upgrade. Like it should be the same price whether they need an expander or they don't. And that's the main thing I want to get to. If you make it two different prices, nah. They're always going to think you're trying to upsell them. So you need to just have your fees high enough so that the people who need expanders can get them, people that don't. And I think that builds a lot of trust because when you tell them, I used to work at offices, a lot of them were DSOs, OSOs, and they always charged extra. So, I mean, that's how they set up their fee plan. There was an upgrade fee for everyone, right? And the problem was it always made it look like we were trying to upsell something when it was the right treatment. And that was always an issue with selling cases, and there would be, the OM was like, well, can't you just do it without? And I'm like, no, I really can't. Here's why. So I think you got to structure your fee plan that way. Anyways, if you do the Invisalign first, and if you do need expansion on the top, it's just going to be tipping. You're going to get, remember, the floor of the nose it's the palate, it's the roof of the mouth. So, if you do expansion, there's going to be usually more airway. That's what research shows. So, I mean, that can only benefit people, and I've told stories about my son. We didn't have to do an expander on him, but he noticed the difference. He had a little biotrainer that would help him do nasal breathing at night instead of mouth breathing when he was, 7 or 8. We did it for about a year, and he would notice the difference on athletically. And now this dude is going to be swimming competitively in college and possibly going up for the Olympics. And he noticed the difference. He would say, "Mom, if I forget my biotrainer, like if he went to someone's house for a slumber party or something, and the next day I don't feel as good." So this is just an example of the benefits of airway, and even kids notice the difference. So, all right, that is the skinny. So just protect yourself and just make the best choice. All right, thank you.